welcome to MCUEx. Oh, shit! What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of MCUEx. I'm Doug Aaron.
I'm Nick Fox.
And we have a lot to talk about today, including Doctor Strange released.
We do?
This past weekend. We've both seen it. We're excited to get talking about it. But first, let's do some follow-up from last week's episode.
Yes.
We asked the question. Nick, you asked a two-part question, actually.
I did.
Would you like to refresh us on what those questions were?
I asked the question, who from the extended Marvel universe, not in the MCU, would you like to bring into the MCU? And then as a secondary part to that question, who from any movie ever would you want to bring into the MCU if you could? And we had a couple different ideas. We asked you guys to share your ideas, and we had some actually pretty cool
you guys
ideas.
delivered.
And a lot of you were amazingly consistent, too.
Yes.
A lot of people wanted Doctor Doom. A lot of people wanted Galactus,
Silver Surfer.
Fantastic Four, which you had mentioned.
I mentioned the Fantastic Four, and I think my answer was Galactus.
Yeah, I think that's where you settled.
And
someone in the comments correct us.
A lot of people agreed with me or brought their own Fantastic Four characters. It just goes to show, if you're going to do anything on the cosmic side of Marvel, the Fantastic Four characters, even if it's not the Fantastic Four themselves, they're really key to it. So a lot of people had that answer. But the second part of that question, which I was even more interested by, we got some cool answers.
Absolutely.
We had Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Ewan McGregor version specifically.
Can I just say, a comment from Polaroid Panda, which I love the name, by the way.
Great name.
Was very specific in their answers. Question 1 said Mystique, the Jennifer Lawrence version.
Right.
And for question 2, wanted Obi-Wan, the Ewan McGregor version.
Sure. Which,
I don't know about you, but I would watch a buddy comedy between the two of those characters, actually.
Oh, yeah, that'd be good. I'd watch that. Let's see, some other ones. Oh, Constantine from DC
Oh my
Universe.
God. Can you imagine that?
I can, and I like what I'm imagining. So.
That would bring such a nice, darker tone to something. It would be a good way of darkening the MCU in ways that are already established in the MCU. Like, it wouldn't be going to Man of Steel level of, like, darkness.
Right.
It would actually, I think, work really well with the realistic darkness that we have.
Yeah, I completely agree. And he's a fun character.
I know.
His show was but then he got brought onto Arrow, and he was good.
I wouldn't know.
And I think he was just in the Justice League Dark movie.
Yeah.
Let's see, Raven from Teen Titans. That's a good answer.
But here's the question. Animated? Bring in an animated character? Just walking around with regular people?
Yeah, just Space Jam style.
Oh my God,
with Robert Downey Jr. in the Michael Jordan role.
I would love that. The other one that I actually really liked was from Venomous 45 Von 5. Or no, Venomous 45 Von.
Okay, good name.
Rolls right off the tongue. It wasn't actually an answer to our question, but sort of answered it anyway. And they said Black Widow flirted with everybody, correcting us because we talked about Banner and Widow in our last video.
Yes, we talked about what we thought of their romance in Age of Ultron.
And Venomous 45 Von said that they sucked as a couple, which, hey...
Your opinion?
Your opinion, and you know what? There are probably a lot of people who agree with you.
Oh, there definitely are.
But at the end of that did say, bring back Betty Ross. So, not necessarily from the extended Marvel universe, but somebody we've already seen in the MCU but have since ignored completely.
Yes, and that's something where I wish they didn't completely ignore her existence. Maybe they don't bring her back. Liv Tyler, super busy, right?
Quit busy being Steven Tyler's daughter.
Exactly.
There's a lot to do there. Do you know how many scarves that man has?
She has to take care of his scarves.
That's a full-time job, dry cleaning those scarves.
But even if they don't bring her back, I'd like them to at least mention her.
Maybe she died in the Battle of New York.
Maybe she did, and that's something worth talking about. Or
done. No need to mention her further.
Right.
Crushed underneath one of those giant, like, flying things that Banner brought down. Ultimate irony.
Right.
Of course you would know the name of those. Giant flying things... Whales is how I've always imagined them because of Stark's mention of...
Right, Jonah.
Right.
But there was one comment
oh my God.
that wins.
This comment is is everything.
We love all of our commenters equally, but some of them more equally than others.
And this is the one that we've been talking about ever since we shot the last episode.
Yeah, we have. It's a fantastic suggestion that came from Vanessa Hopfa. We're guessing on your last name.
Correct us if we're wrong. We're idiots.
Sorry if we pronounce it wrong. But she suggested bringing Indiana Jones over to team up with 40s Cap and the Howling Commandos.
Which would be absolutely amazing.
We've been talking about that. And we've been talking about Indiana Jones 5, which I don't know why is happening with Harrison Ford.
Oh, God, why? Stop. Hollywood, stop.
We don't want old, modern-day Indiana Jones.
No.
We want Indiana Jones doing what he does best, which is fighting Nazis.
Whip, gun, Nazis. It's a real easy trifecta. You can't screw it up.
And bringing him into this environment is the perfect way to do it.
Yeah.
Both owned by Disney now, so make it happen. But Vanessa, we loved your answer so much. Like I said, we have not been able to stop talking about it. So we are sending you a free t-shirt from MCUExchange.com.
Yeah.
And make sure if you're watching and you want to win a free t-shirt as well, stick around till the end of this video. We'll tell you how you might be able to do that. But if you don't want to wait around or you don't want it to be free, you like spending money on things, you can do that too. MCUExchange.com has a store with lots of great shirt designs, which are now on the screen. And more designs being added all the time. The shirts are super comfortable. They are awesome and funny, and they will let everybody know that you are a huge nerd and help you find your fellow nerd friends.
They will also help you make friends. You will smell better, look better, and will be smarter if you wear these shirts.
We cannot guarantee that. Except for the look better part. You will look better in one of these.
At least from the neck to the waist.
Anyway, so you can click this annotation and go to our store, or you can just go to MCUExchange.com and click store at the top. Check out our designs, get a t-shirt, be a nerd, make us happy. And Vanessa, we're going to send you one for free. And somebody else, stick around till the end of the video. You can find out how you can win a free t-shirt.
Yeah, seriously, Vanessa, if you haven't gotten in touch already, make sure you get in touch so we have your information, because we want to get that to
Vanessa, because we love that suggestion. We've not stopped talking about it. Indy would be a perfect addition to the MCU.
I would watch that in a heartbeat.
Right. So,
but instead what we did watch
from last week's episode, let's talk about this week's episode.
And this week's biggest news.
Right. The release of Doctor Strange. Now, as of recording this, we are recording this on Saturday, November 5th.
You had to look at the date, didn't you?
I still got it. No, I got it right. November 5th.
Remember, Doug.
5th. So we do not have the final numbers on Doctor Strange's box office opening weekend.
No.
We have estimates, and we know it's going to be very high. Original estimates had it about 60 million.
Yeah, I saw 60, 70 as sort
60, 70 million. It's looking to perform at about 85 million.
Which is, oh my God.
Possibly as high as 90.
And even if it's 85 and not 90, it's mind-blowing, especially for a property that nobody has any attachment to.
I mean, it just shows what word of mouth does for movies like this. Because it has one of the... We were looking before we started filming on Rotten Tomatoes. It's tied for 4th of all-time high tomato scores on Rotten Tomatoes. It's tied with Civil War.
Right, for MCU films.
For MCU films, right,
yeah.
right.
Not of all time. I think one of the Toy Stories is that.
Yeah, it goes, like Iron Man, Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, and then this and Civil War tied. Next is Winter Soldier.
Which I don't understand at all. Winter Soldier.
Well, it's important to remember about Rotten Tomatoes that the tomato score is not a score of how people ranked it out of 100 or out of 10 or whatever. It's just a percentage of critics that liked the movie more than they disliked it. So a lot of critics weren't being totally blown away by Doctor Strange, but 90% of them said there's a lot to like here.
Yeah, and there was.
And
we're going to talk about that today because there's a lot to cover. There's a lot of new stuff in Doctor Strange. There's a lot of stuff we're familiar with in Doctor Strange. The story, very familiar. But the biggest thing, the thing that really struck me, and I think we should just dive in, the visual effects.
Yes, and before we start talking about the visual effects...
Can we wait? No.
No, we can't wait, but just a very brief spoiler warning. This is going to be a spoiler-heavy review and discussion of the film. So if you have not yet seen Doctor Strange, what the hell are you doing? Drop what you're doing right now, go see it, in IMAX 3D if you can, We'll spoil our review right now and say we both liked it.
Yeah.
So yes, if you haven't seen it, go see it, and then come back and watch our discussion of it.
Go in this little bar up top, type in Fandango, get some tickets, and go.
Right. This episode is brought to you by Fandango, by the way.
Someday it will be.
Maybe.
But no one will actually notice because we will have had so many joke sponsorships over the years.
Right. So, okay, anyway, spoiler warning out of the way. Let's talk about the visual effects. Go.
Holy crap.
Right?
I mean, so I thought we were going to get some very Inception-level effects from it. The trailer gave me that impression.
Yeah.
Where things would bend and stuff like that. I did not expect it to be this amazing fourth-dimensional kaleidoscope of awesomeness.
Yeah.
And I think I told you the day after, these are probably my favorite visual effects I've ever seen in any movie ever.
Any movie, period?
Period.
Yeah, I don't know if it's quite that amazing to me.
That's fair.
But I will say some of the most inventive action sequences I've ever seen.
Right.
Largely because of the visual effects.
And I think the opening sequence is set the stage for it all.
Yeah, that opening sequence with Caecilius leaving the Camartage and the Ancient One going after him and using the mirror dimension and twisting physics and kind of warping the world.
And also having the building like wrap onto Caecilius's followers,
right,
crushing them. I mean, it was just mind-blowing. I think having that set piece right up front helped set the stage, helped you know what you were getting into
early. And with no context, lets you know we're going to be dealing with some really powerful stuff.
Yeah. And boy, was it.
Yes.
I mean, Here's my thing. Maybe there were a few other like science nerds out there as well. I love their use of fractals. I think they had nice repeating fractals. The hand sequence when he's first in Camartage got a great laugh in my audience.
Oh, did he get a laugh?
Yeah.
Okay, it didn't get a laugh.
Where his hand just like breaks into fractals of hands.
Right.
And then, wraps around his face in hands and he is a hand.
And the hands become a face.
Right.
Yeah. And then it zooms into the eye and he's holding on to the eye. Yeah, that was the chunk of the 15-minute IMAX preview.
Oh, is that what that was?
Was that whole
my God.
magical mystery tour.
Right, and so this is like Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory boat ride
times a million.
On speed.
Right.
This is like if that were made today, Gene Wilder, rest his soul, would be paddling an Oompa Loompa boat through Doctor Strange's eye, and we'd all be freaked out. But I just thought it was amazing. The use of fractals, first of all, was mind-blowing because it was all mathematically accurate, how everything branched and fractaled.
Right.
The other thing that really got me was, and bravo to the visual effects artists and the people behind this, because you have to have some mathematicians on your staff. They were using fourth-dimensional spaces where things were wrapping inside of each other like a hypercube. This is something that like probably 3% of audiences noticed, but if you noticed it, you loved it. And I saw it and was just blown away the way things could wrap in and out of themselves.
Let me ask you this. Could this be the film that wins Marvel its first Oscar for visual effects?
Ooh,
now,
I
remember,
hope so.
It's competing against The Jungle Book, which, when I saw The Jungle Book, my immediate thought was, there's the Oscar for visual effects. Hands down. But
I think it's too showy to win the Oscar. I think because it's so...
Doctor Strange is too showy?
I think it's too in your face with it, yeah. I think that visual effects tend to go to the things that vanish.
Right.
Where you stop noticing the visual effects. So you have things like Benjamin Button, where it allows the story to progress. In this, you could have gotten away with a lot lower bar for special effects and still had a great movie. Mm-hmm. I love them personally, and I think probably because of the artistry behind them. But I don't think they were necessary. Jungle Book, to tell that story, you needed that level of effect. So I think they have a better shot at it.
I think they'll get the nomination for sure.
Regardless, I think Disney is winning the visual effects Oscar.
Disney's winning the visual effects Oscar this year for sure.
Right. And it's funny how the visual effects almost became their own character, though.
Yes, yeah. And speaking of characters, the characters in this film...
I know.
...were there were some really amazing character work that reminded me a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy because they were introducing us to a lot of different characters, and all of them were well acted. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about the acting in a minute. Everybody was so good in this movie. They were well acted. They felt fully fleshed out. I mean, they turned the Cloak of Levitation, a flying cape, into one of my favorite characters of the movie.
Right. I mean, it's Aladdin's magic carpet for a new generation now.
Exactly.
I loved the fact that Wong is our Drax right now.
Yes. And by the way, speaking, you mentioned that the hand fractals got a laugh. Biggest laugh of the entire movie for me was in the finale when Wong does finally laugh.
And what I love about that is everybody knows it's coming. We all know.
We knew it was going to come. We knew that there was going to be a payoff to Wong not laughing. We knew he was going to laugh at something that nobody else was laughing at. It'd be funny.
And we got the little payoff of him listening to Single Ladies.
Right.
Which, please tell me, Marvel, Feige, please tell me that there was an extended cut of him just sitting there listening to Beyonce. Like, I would watch Wong sitting there listening to an entire album from Beyonce.
Yeah, just Wong listens to Lemonade. There's the one shot for the DVD.
Yeah, it's just Wong going to a Beyonce concert.
Yes.
He's in like a t-shirt. Yeah.
A t-shirt like this one?
Oh, it says Beyonce and Wong on the same shirt?
It doesn't say Beyonce.
Oh, that's later.
Yeah.
It says Eminem on it.
Yes.
It says Eminem on it? No. So, by the way, we can't actually see what's here.
Through the magic of editing, movie magic.
We're very caffeinated right now.
Yes, we are. So, but yes, characters. So, when I said everybody was well acted, I noticed there was a little bit of disagreement on your part. Who didn't you like?
Okay. So, let's start with who I thought was great.
Sure.
I thought Tilda Swinton was incredible. She was
controversy about her casting aside.
First of all, I just think Tilda Swinton is like just a cool person.
She seems like a very cool person. She's a great actress. Whether or not you agree with the decision to cast her, you have to look at her and the performance she turned in and acknowledge that it was a fantastic performance.
And her final moment. That speech, oh my God, I choked up.
Yeah.
No tears, but I choked up.
It was really an emotional final moment between them.
And she was like, look at me, extending this last moment into 1,000.
Just to watch the snowfall, yeah.
Oh my God. I was just like, I think that might be my favorite death we've ever gotten.
Well, when you have these origin story movies, you kind of know the mentor is going to die.
You sort of have to.
Right.
Jensen
has to die. Dr. Erskine has to die. You know this going into it. So it was not surprising to me that the Ancient One died.
Coulson has to die.
Right. But the way they handled the death, they didn't just kill her, make it dramatic, and then have Doctor Strange not know what to do.
Right.
They had them have a conversation about death and about how to move forward.
And I think you needed that because of her character in it. We really didn't get a connection between the two of them.
Right.
She was a very standoffish teacher.
She was mysterious.
And so I think because we hadn't personalized their relationship yet, we needed that moment for it to have any impact.
Right.
Because otherwise it's like, okay, she's dead. We know he has magic powers. My two holdouts on I thought Mordo's characterization could have been better.
See, what do you mean his characterization? Because I loved his character as Strange's ally. I did think that his turn at the end...
Yes, that's what I'm talking about, is we don't have enough...
That was rushed, that was weak.
I don't think we have enough information about who he is and what he is in order to justify that turn, especially considering what the Ancient One said about him in her final moments.
Right. And I think Mordo being so rigid and seeing these rules being broken and knowing that these consequences are coming, so basically wanting to wipe out sorcerers so that can't happen, on paper, that's a really cool character motivation. And possibly a good idea and a way to make him a future great villain.
Oh, yeah.
And he still might be a great villain.
I think,
the transition from him, from ally to villain, I agree, was a little weak.
Yeah, and I think Ejiofor has the chops to pull that off as an amazing, cold, calculating, smart villain.
Absolutely.
I just think the transition was rushed. And I think rather than a character issue, it's probably a story issue.
Well, I think, and we'll talk about negatives in a little bit, but I think rushed is maybe the best single word to describe all of my critiques of it against this movie.
So here, full disclosure, we have not discussed deep details of what we actually thought.
We haven't even talked about general opinions.
No. So this is the first I'm hearing this, and I would definitely agree.
Yeah.
I think it was a little rushed overall, and we'll get to that later. The only other holdout I have for characterization, and I've mentioned this to you already, is Cumberbatch's accent. which I thought was inconsistent, and it took me out.
Yeah.
And I think the best acting disappears and fades into the scenery. And I was very aware of him acting.
It never bothered me.
Fair enough.
But I will say that for Strange's character, I don't think it really mattered whether or not he's American.
Yeah, I don't know why they forced the American accent on him.
Yeah.
Because we had other accents in the movie, and I don't recall thinking of them.
Right. So, yeah, you know what? It didn't bother me. And that seems like one of those things, it's Cumberbatch. He's a great actor.
Yeah.
It'll probably improve in the next movie.
Absolutely.
So, never bothered me. But I see where you're coming from.
So, my question for you on this is Rachel McAdams, ?
So, I feel like the MCU right now has a scale of love interests, where at the very bottom of that scale, you have the useless, detracts from the story, isn't really a fully fledged character, should just be cut out of the movie entirely.
Name names, Doug.
Jane Foster in the
Thank you. We were all thinking it.
She was fine in Thor, but in the Dark World, she was worse than useless. She was a detractor.
What's this ether?
But then, on the other end of that spectrum, you have Peggy Carter, who is way more than just a love interest. She's one of the more interesting characters in the entire movie, warrants a spin-off TV show.
And I wish she got the Super Soldier formula.
Right, you almost wish that she's the one that was on the Avengers, because that'd be amazing.
Peggy Carter for American Dream, everybody.
Absolutely. Yes. Cool. Yes, please. And then in the middle, you have, Pepper Potts. She's a character. She has her own motivations. She's fully formed. But, at least in the first few movies, her primary interest is in being the love interest or the damsel in distress or whatever. Mm-hmm. She's fine. If the movie doesn't have her in it, I'm not missing her. If it does, it's no worse off.
If she's only mentioned on a teleprompter, I'm sort of okay with it.
Right. I would say that Rachel McAdams falls right around where Pepper Potts does. I don't think I don't think she detracted from the movie. I think that as a character, she worked. She didn't feel like she was just thrown in to be a love interest.
Yeah.
But if she's not in the sequel, I'm okay with that.
What I did like is you mentioned Pepper Potts, is we have Rachel McAdams essentially where Pepper Potts was in Iron Man 1.
Right.
Pepper was such an interesting character in 1. We didn't know a lot about her, but we had enough information and enough scenes with her that we were like, okay, where's this going? And I thought Pepper was her most interesting in Iron Man 1, honestly. Because she was driven, although she was aligned entirely with Tony's objectives.
Yeah, I'd say Iron Man 2 when she becomes the CEO of the company, but fair enough.
No, and I think that's the natural ending of her arc. I just think that they didn't give her enough to do as CEO,
right,
to make that really worthwhile. And right now, Rachel McAdams, I think we have enough scenes with her. We know that she's an amazing doctor. We have her interfacing with Strange in his incorporeal form.
Right.
And
I thought that was a good scene.
Yeah, and my question is, because obviously we're not doing Night Nurse with her.
Doesn't seem so.
No, especially because after New York Comic Con, it seems like we have our Night Nurse.
Right, it's Claire Temple, Rosario Dawson.
And that's fine because, Jeff Loeb introduced her as our Night Nurse. Yeah. So I think it's settled at this point.
And you want to talk about characters who have, transcended the love interests.
Oh my God, yeah.
She's one of them for sure.
And that's perfect. But it'll be interesting to see where they go with Rachel McAdams' character.
I agree. And I think, I'm sure like every other actress or actor in the MCU, they have her on some multi-picture deal.
She's probably got 20 movies under her right now.
But she's one of those where if it turns out she can't come back for the sequel, I'm okay with that.
But my thinking is, it seems so strange to me that she was able to see Stephen Strange in his incorporeal form.
Well, he kind of appeared to her.
He did, but we don't have any other examples of that happening.
I think because it seemed like, and they didn't really quite explain this, it seemed like
he was bursting.
Form exists in the astral dimension.
And it seemed like around him was the mirror dimension. We saw a mirror break around him.
That's what I was going to say. It seemed, when he left the astral dimension to talk to Christine, it seemed like he was leaving the mirror dimension.
Right.
But it wasn't really established that the astral dimension and the mirror dimension were the same thing.
Here's my thing, and I've told you this. I just hope they're going to make her a witch. I just want her to be a witch in it.
I don't. When Clea comes in a future sequel, let her replace Rachel McAdams.
Hashtag McAdams for Clea.
No.
Hashtag McAdams for Clea.
No. I'm editing it. I'm not putting that in there.
Oh, look, Doug, it's there.
God damn it. Anyway.
Right, so...
I agree, though. I think she was fine, and all the characters were great.
But I do think, and we've touched on this, the story helped or hindered the characters more than their actual characterizations or their acting.
Right.
Because I think we had probably one of the best casts we've ever had.
Yes. All around phenomenal cast.
So I think the fact that we had an origin story and a lot of heavy lifting to explain magic is what's going to do it, and that comes down to story. So this is the first for me, this is the first for you guys. What did you think of the story, Doug?
I thought it was great.
And that's our show, everybody.
No, I did. I read some criticisms before seeing the movie that it's an origin story, it's a little conventional, it's a little similar to Iron Man, and...
I mean, everyone's going to say every origin's the same. Ant-Man was the same as Iron Man, but it was amazing.
Right, and the problem with origin stories is there are only so many different types of origins a superhero can have.
Right.
Either they're born with powers, they get them through some tragic event, or it's a similar origin story to what we've seen before. But I think the visual aspects of it and the finale really, really changed things for the better for me. So I was absolutely fine with the story, other than the fact that it was rushed. It was an origin story, it was a world building, it was a table setting story, but I could have spent... Honestly, I think the movie could have been an hour longer.
I agree with that,
I would have been fine with it.
And it was a hard 2 hours that they hit.
Yeah. It was,
including credits.
It was just, I think it was like 155 minutes.
Right. And so, my thing, though, is we don't get a sense of the passage of time.
Right.
And that was my biggest critique of the entire thing, is I have no clue what period of time this took place over.
I would have liked to see Strange before his powers more.
Yes.
I would have liked to see a lot more of his training.
Even though and what I like is he's not perfect at the end.
No.
He's still only conjuring this like weird tube of energy.
He's not the Sorcerer Supreme.
No. And I love
no
it.
Sorcerer Supreme at the end.
And I think that that's a smart move, because too often in these movies, we see them at the peak at the end of their first movie.
Right.
And then where do you go from there? It's this bigger, better problem that we've talked about. Where do you go from there? You have to have a worse villain.
I am Iron Man. He is the hero. He has nothing more to learn about how to be Iron Man.
Right.
He is Iron Man.
Yeah, and you just have other people in suits.
Right. This one ends with, there is no Sorcerer Supreme. And I think one of the last lines of the film is, you still have a lot to learn.
Yep. Yeah, and the fact of the matter is, he beat the villain through his mind and not through his magic.
So let's talk about that finale.
Can we? Because this is where this rushing thing really hurt me the most.
Okay, I have a feeling you and I, this is where we're going to disagree the most. I loved the finale of this movie. First off, we've been having a lot of destruction recently.
Yes.
And especially in 2016, we've been dealing a lot with the consequences of destruction. With Batman v Superman, with Civil War, the consequences of destruction weigh very heavily on the superhero landscape.
No, yeah, absolutely.
And this one had no destruction. It actually had reverse destruction. How did
Construction, maybe.
How did Doctor
had a word for
Strange
this.
beat the final villain? He threatened to annoy him for eternity.
That's my technique for dealing with enemies, really.
Right. There was no fighting an army of robots or clones. There wasn't a big knockdown fight that destroys a city.
Yeah.
There was one building that got destroyed, and then reversed so it wasn't destroyed anymore. Number of casualties in this movie...
Wait, I thought we lost one sanctum.
London, yeah, but in Hong Kong.
Right. So we did lose one sanctum.
I'm talking about the finale.
Right.
We lost the Ancient One. We lost the previous Guardian of the New York Sanctum. We lost plenty of people in this movie. But if you just want to talk about
we gained
the finale,
a cloak.
How many people died in the finale? Caecilius didn't. He went to the Dark Dimension beyond death.
At least one of his followers had to have, right?
No. None of them died. It was reversed. He and his zealots all went to the Dark Dimension.
I feel like there were more followers at the beginning than there were at the end.
There were, because some of them died beforehand.
No, I mean in that scene. Like there's one that ended up in a fish tank. Did that person get out?
Oh, who knows? But my point is,
where are you, fish tank?
How many bystanders died? 0.
Yeah.
How much? What's the dollar amount on the property damage? 0.
But also nobody knows that anything was done. Nobody knows that they were saved.
Right. What's the news headline going to be tomorrow? Disaster in Hong Kong? No. Business as usual in Hong Kong.
Slightly cloudy yesterday. People mildly annoyed.
And yet, the stakes were more than world-ending. They were universe-ending. Mm-hmm. This movie built up the stakes in a way that felt believable and felt real and heightened, and yet did so in a way that required zero destruction, zero loss of life, and a finale that basically ended with the villain and the hero talking it out.
Yes, but I talked about the lack of a time frame. And I think not knowing how long Dormammu was annoyed for...
Oh, okay. I feel you. I think it would have been cool to do like a Groundhog Day scenario where Strange is dying for years.
I want him to be going for a millennium.
Yeah.
At least. I want 1,000 years of Dormammu being tormented by a mild annoyance.
Right.
Or just a drip of water. And it's this idea, and I wish we had gotten more into it, because so many Eastern philosophies, which so much of Doctor Strange is based in, have this idea of, even a rock can be chipped away by a drip of water.
Right.
It just takes time. And this is the idea that they used for their finale. And I think I wouldn't have been as annoyed with how rushed it felt or how little time constrained it felt if I hadn't seen another thing that I'm a fan of,
which is
do it better. Doctor Who. Yet another Doctor.
I'm not a Doctor Who fan.
So, it was in a recent season, and those of you who are bigger fans than I am will probably be able to name it in the comments. There was an episode in which he was trapped in a time loop. He would be reborn at the beginning of it, and at the end was being chased by this thing continuously, and he would be killed at the end every single time. But after each one, he would punch this like 20-foot thick diamond wall. And we start hearing, and we see it repeat over and over and over. And every time we hear him say how long it's been. So he's like, the universe is 10,000 years older than it should be. The universe is 1 billion years older than it should be. The universe is 3 trillion years older than it should be. How far have I come? And each time we cut, we see a little dent, a little dent, a little dent in this diamond wall until he reaches his goal. Mm. And so we know that it's taken like 2 trillion years for him to accomplish this feat. And he knows he's dying every single time, but he can't remember it.
Yeah, I don't know. The only thing with that, making it take that long, is that when he comes back, you're facing a very, very changed character.
And I think having it for 100 years would have been fine. But I think, look, Dormammu is this enormous threat. You need to have something that's enormous, some time extent that would annoy him sufficiently. Because otherwise, what is that to him?
Right.
And I just think, I think Doctor Who did it better. So I think that's the standard I'm holding it up to.
Okay, fair enough. I'll grant you that. And I will say, and that's my critique about the entire movie. It was rushed.
Yeah, and they had a lot of lifting to do.
On a concept level.
Yes.
I loved the finale. Thought it was so original.
Dormammu, I have come to bargain with you.
Dormammu, I have come to bargain is one of my favorite lines. Because of the way it was used.
And I like that you actually did get to see his swagger develop through that.
Right, yes. Where he realized, I'm going to die, probably painfully, over and over and over, and yet, it doesn't matter, because I'm coming back.
Yeah, I just wish even, like, a line or two explaining that it had been 10,000 repetitions of this, or, you know.
Right, and I'll agree with that.
Again, the movie had so much heavy lifting to do that I think it was necessary just to not make it a 3-hour movie.
Right.
Because, look, as much as we would have loved a 3-hour movie...
Right, we were talking about how it could be an hour longer. Nobody would want that. Nobody wants a 3-hour Marvel movie. Well, we do, but...
I would watch Tony Stark tinkering in a garage for 5 hours straight.
Sure, who wouldn't?
And Dummy is still alive.
Oh, Dummy. Another great non-character character.
I know, so many of them.
But yeah. I agree. I do agree with what you're saying.
But again, a lot of these issues can be fixed. We had to explain magic.
Had to get the characters out of the way. You had to do all this stuff because when a new movie comes out in the MCU, when like Ant-Man comes out, we didn't have shrinking technology. But it's close.
We did, but we didn't know it.
Right. It's close enough that it doesn't really need to do much explaining for us to be on board with it.
Yeah, Tony Stark building a motorized suit of armor. Everyone sort of gets that.
Right. When they want to bring Black Panther and Spider-Man in it, we've seen enhanced suits, we've seen kind of magic stuff, we've seen enhanced people before. We can bring them in.
Right.
We don't need to worry about...
We've seen serums and vibranium. We get that.
Right. But Doctor Strange is somebody that needed a very traditional, very fleshed out origin story. And so this almost felt like a movie that came out of Phase 1 and not Phase 3.
Right.
Not 14 movies into a universe. So, that being said, though, I'm so excited for the sequel.
Yes.
Because now all that world building is done.
But I still think that there's a lot more to do.
Oh, there is, but not... It's now world expanding and not explaining.
Yeah, but I think having Stephen Strange be a student does help because he is our lens into that world. And unlike Tony Stark, who is an expert at construction already, he's an expert at engineering. He is the smartest man alive as far as he's concerned. We have somebody who is a student and an amazing student, and so we get to learn with him.
Right.
Which is a great conceit in storytelling, so that we don't have to just have expository scenes. We can have training scenes where he is learning these things. And again, I love that we get to watch him train further and go beyond this tube and shields that barely stay together for more than 3 seconds. You saw a lot of thinking, and I think we don't see a lot of thinking heroes.
I agree. And, you mentioned, I think last week, that you would like to see a proper detective Batman.
Yes.
He's the world's greatest detective, and yet we very rarely see him detect.
Is that the proper verb?
Sure, why not? And I think what you're saying about Doctor Strange being a thinking hero is spot on, where we actually might get to see him figure things out and think about things. And not
It's because he's a man of science.
And not just have... a Deus Ex Machina explanation come at him and tell him the villain's plan.
Right.
Where he has to read and study and figure it out.
Yeah, find some ancient text in some language that has long since been lost, but it has some origin, some other language that he can then figure out.
Right.
But I think an important point to ask, though.
Yes.
This is an origin story. We've had a lot of origin stories. People are, there are a lot of write-ups that are like, it's an origin story, so what? We've seen it before.
Right.
Our origin story is dead. Is this the nail in the coffin now?
I think they might be. For a couple of reasons. One, now every movie takes place in a universe that has already been established.
Yeah.
And so you don't need to establish the fact that there are superheroes because we've seen other ones. And two, superhero movies are so popular that the origin story, like we were saying before, there are only so many variations on the formula for an origin story that we've seen them so many times. When was the last really popular origin story movie? I'd argue it was maybe Captain America: The First Avenger.
It probably was. I mean, unless you're going to go Man of Steel.
Yeah, but that wasn't really well regarded.
It wasn't liked.
Amazing Spider-Man 1, same deal. Nobody... Right, so when was the last really well-received, straight-up origin story? Guardians of the Galaxy, you could argue, might count as an origin story.
But it skipped over a lot of the origining.
Exactly. It didn't feel like an origin story.
Yondu and Peter's relationship.
Felt like an origin story.
And that's Cap.
Captain America: The First Avenger in 2011.
I would agree.
We're not done with origin stories, but I think we are done with movies that are only origin movies.
Right, and I think, look, we have terrestrial origins covered, we have celestial origins covered, we have now sort of magic origins covered. There's really not much else left in the Marvel Universe to cover.
Right.
Minor things that we can sort of explain away as other things.
Right.
We've already seen that with mutants.
I mean, they're still going to do origin stories, but they don't need to devote whole movies to them.
Well, look, I think Captain Marvel will technically be an origin.
I think that'll be the most origin-heavy movie that they have coming out.
But I think you can get around that because of the history of the character, that it's been a thing.
Right.
We just don't know.
We've seen Kree before.
Yeah.
We've seen space stuff before.
Right.
We're on board. So, to wrap up our discussion on Doctor Strange, I have a question for you that you did not know was coming, and so might be difficult for you to answer. A while back, before you were a host on MCUEx,
Before I was born,
we ranked at the time 13 movies of the MCU. Mm-hmm. Now there are 14 movies now.
There are what?
And you and I can do a proper ranking of it later.
Right. This might take a little bit of time.
Sure. This one takes thought, but right off the cuff, top of your head. Obviously, this can change. Not written in stone.
I'm trying to predict the question as we go here.
Where does Doctor Strange fall on your list of MCU movies from number 1, your favorite, to number 14, your least favorite?
Probably 6. It's pretty middle for me. It didn't do anything new and exciting. I love the visual effects, but again, I think the story feeling rushed. I'm a big story guy.
Yeah.
I think bad character can be covered with good story. I like them both to work. For me, the top three, and I switch my top three all the time,
of course,
are going to be Avengers, Iron Man 1, and The Winter Soldier.
Really? Guardians doesn't ever make your top three?
That's my fourth.
Okay.
Guardians is like the most enjoyable for me. I think then right under that goes Ant-Man.
Really? That's high.
In terms of enjoyability.
It's a fun movie.
Right. It's one of those movies I can put on anytime, and I can just watch it and enjoy it. It doesn't ask too much of me, which I really enjoy. And Doctor Strange comes somewhere right around there. Maybe like Thor 2 would be in that same vicinity with Iron Man 2.
Oh, wow. Okay, so both of those movies that you just mentioned are pretty low on my list.
By the way, controversy, I love Iron Man 2 and hate Iron Man 3. Fight about it in the comments.
I'd say around 6 or 7 as well for me, just because I think both Captain America sequels, the first Iron Man, Avengers, Guardians, they all go in front. I'd probably put it above Ant-Man.
That's fair, yeah.
So yeah, about 6 maybe for me.
Yeah, and I'd need to see it again. I'd need to see some of the other ones again. For me, the bottom of the barrel is going to be Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, it's either Incredible Hulk or The Dark World for me.
And depending on when I've seen The Dark World, I change a lot.
The only thing that saves The Incredible Hulk is in Harlem, the final battle between Hulk and Abomination. That's a really, really good action scene.
And the Stan Lee cameo.
And the Stan Lee cameo is a great cameo.
He dies.
Yeah. So
poor Stan Lee. Stan Lee, I love you, buddy. But that one hit a little close to home for me.
I'm very worried about Stan Lee's death.
Can someone go check on Stan Lee like right now? We need him for a couple more movies, guys.
We need to get this episode out on YouTube immediately. Because can you imagine how bad we'd feel if we're having this conversation and between filming and posting this video, Stan Lee dies?
We just put R.I.P. Stan Lee.
If Stan Lee is dead when you're watching this video, we already feel terrible, and we'll talk about it next.
Stanley, we miss you already. It'll be like 1823 to 2016. I'm pretty sure that's how old he is.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But yeah, I would put it somewhere in the middle. It might drop. Most things drop on repeat viewing for me.
See, this is one of those movies that I feel like could rise a position or two on repeat viewings, because I might notice things in the visual effects.
That's true.
Or in some of the action scenes. You know, we didn't even talk about the scene in the chase scene in New York where Ancient One dies. That's one of the most fun chase scenes.
The entire mirror dimension chase. The
mirror dimension is awesome.
Yeah, and you know what? I kept looking for in the background, like, just Spider-Man swinging through the background, just in case.
That would have been cool.
There was a part of me, and maybe it's in there, Star Trek, the first in the reboot series, had R2-D2 fly through there.
Right.
Just because ILM worked on the special effects. So it's not out of the question that, in some of the kaleidoscopic views, we have Spidey. It's New York. It's not out of the question that he's there somewhere. Sure. Just like, stopping a mugger. Some real low-level crime while Doctor Strange is doing all this craziness. But yeah, I think overall, I liked it. That's why it's sort of right in the middle for me.
Right.
It gets the job done. It tells the story. The characters were good. The cast was phenomenal.
Yes.
And the visual effects for me were my favorite of any movie ever. So it has to be somewhere solidly in the middle.
I completely agree. I think Doctor Strange did a lot of things really, really, really well and did nothing terribly. And
except for that accent occasionally.
But even that wasn't distracting.
We'll keep fighting about this.
Fair enough.
Was for me.
But so, I think it was mostly a very good movie with a few things that were excellent. And so, yeah, overall, I really, really liked it, and I had a great time. More fun than I've had since Ant-Man.
Okay.
I would say I liked Civil War better, but I had more fun watching this than Civil War.
I would agree. I think I could have used a little more humor. I think it was a little too sparse.
You're talking about Doctor Strange?
Yeah.
Oh, I completely disagree. I think the humor, there was a lot of it, and not quite too much, but...
Tune in next episode where we fist fight over this.
I don't think we needed more. I think the humor we had was really good.
I think it was just a tad too light. I could have used... Because when they came back to it a couple times, it was like, oh, right, this can be funny at times.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, though.
But agree to disagree on that. So a new rating system that I want to introduce is how many rewatches would you give this?
Oh, I like that system.
Yeah. Because something like Avengers for me is like 100 rewatches easy. Like, that's way up there.
Right.
So how many rewatches would you give this?
How many rewatches would I give this? That's a great question. Probably 4 or 5.
I'm right in there. There's no upper cap on rewatches, by the way, guys.
Right.
So yeah, I'd probably have it at a solid like 4 or 5. Once I have it on Blu-ray, I'd probably do it maybe once a quarter, so 4 times a year.
This seems like the kind of movie that's fun to put on. It's one of those movies where it's an MCU movie that I'm not going to think about watching all the time.
Right.
Like, I occasionally just get the strong urge to watch The Winter Soldier again.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's such a visceral movie.
Right. That's one of those movies where, you know what puts me in the mood to watch The Winter Soldier? Watching The Winter Soldier. I've watched that movie twice in a day before.
Doug has anger issues.
My rewatch number on The Winter Soldier is upwards of 50.
My rewatch number on Avengers is hundreds, literal hundreds. There was a point right after it came out on Blu-ray and DVD where I was watching it probably every other day.
Right.
And I would just put it on because I was bored, put it on because I was hungry, put it on because I had just seen it, and it's amazing.
And then there are the movies where, even though I like them, I only rewatch them if I'm watching the entire MCU. Mm-hmm. Incredible Hulk. I've seen that movie 3 or 4 times, but I've only ever seen it when I'm prepping for a new movie by watching all the MCU releases. I saw it once in theaters. I saw it before Avengers. I think I've seen it once since then when I recently rewatched the MCU.
I actually saw it in a double feature with Iron Man in Las Vegas.
Oh, fun.
I had already seen Iron Man, but I was like, hey, this is another Marvel movie. Wonder if they're doing a studio thing now. And they were. And that's how I got to here right now. But yeah, I definitely think it would be good. If you've gotten this far and you haven't seen the movie, by the way, why?
Right.
Go out and see it. I'd highly recommend it. Sounds you're recommending it as well. Is there anyone you wouldn't recommend it for?
Anybody who is really weirded out by hands.
Scared of fractals. If you're scared of fractals...
Or just if you have this weird thing where you don't like looking at hands, you're not going to like this video, or this movie.
So now that I've sufficiently creeped everybody out...
Right.
I think we should sort of wrap things up. We'd mentioned something at the top of the show.
Yes, we talked about how you could win a shirt from us. And Nick, would you like to tell people how they might be able to do that?
Sure. Obviously, we're a good big family by now, but we always like spreading the word. We always like seeing how creative you guys can be, how creative our friends and family are. So what we want you to do is share a link to this video. Share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter, and link us in it. Do an @ mention or whatever it's called on Facebook.
Yeah, just tag us in whatever.
Tag us, there we go.
And again, if you want to do that, we're at the MCUExchange on Twitter and at MCUExchange on Facebook.
Get as creative as possible. Make it a joke, make it an inside reference, make it some stupid comment about me getting off topic. I don't know, whatever it happens to be, get creative. Again, make sure we're tagged, make sure we're mentioned in it so that we can see it. Our favorite link, our favorite comment is going to get a t-shirt sent direct to you. But if you can't wait for that, or if you're not creative at all,
or if you have no friends to share it with, you can just buy a t-shirt, because that's always an option. You can exchange money for goods and services.
Where can I do that, Doug?
Just go to MCUExchange.com, and at the top on the toolbar, click Store, and you'll see lots of our great t-shirt designs. Again, we just put 2 more up. We have lots more coming out all the time. They will help you identify yourself as a huge MCU nerd, and...
who knows, you might see one other person with one.
And right, you might run into somebody else and have something to talk about, talk to strangers, because that's always fun.
Talk to strangers, get off topic. It's pretty much the way we go.
Right. So if you want to win a free one, again, just share this video in a way that you think's creative or funny or cool, and tag us in it, let us see... And we'll find our favorite, the one that makes us laugh, or the one that we think is really cool or talented.
Yeah, now, and I think some people are starting to get a sense of our tastes because, Indiana Jones definitely playing to our strengths here.
Absolutely.
So, hey, pander to us if you want. It might work.
Draw Nick, draw me, if you can draw.
Please draw me.
Yeah, just draw us. That could do so. Anyway.
Fan art. We'll have a fan art.
Tell you how to be creative. Just be creative.
I will.
And win a t-shirt or buy a t-shirt, and you can do that by clicking here. I just pointed to my face. Here. There we go. Click here, buy a t-shirt.
This really small link.
And of course, guys, make sure that you're checking MCUExchange.com, not just for t-shirts, but for news and features, reviews, all that cool stuff related to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
And before we go, last time we left you with a question.
Yes, let's do another question.
I have an awesome question. I'm hyped on Doctor Strange right now.
Cool.
So I have a lot of thoughts about Doctor Strange, especially the Eye of Agamotto.
Okay.
And oh my god, it was so cool. I like that we got to mention it was an Infinity Stone.
It's a time stone.
Yeah, I love that we get to mention that right in the movie itself. So my question, and you can answer it now.
And you please answer it in the comments.
Right down there. We loved the comments last time, so please, we'd love to hear your ideas on this. We'll probably mention some of our favorites at the top of the next show.
Absolutely.
So my question is, where else would you have liked to have seen the Eye of Agamotto used in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? While you think, I'll give my answer.
Please do.
I would love to have seen it be used for a little wish fulfillment. Let Cap and Peggy get their dance.
Oh. Okay.
Not used for any major plot point, but maybe just Cap needs that moment. And it's something that she now gets to experience that she never gets to tell him about later because it would break the time-space continuum.
So that's the problem with that question is the way the time stone works, which, by the way, we didn't touch on this, but I love the way they did the time stone because it puts the idea of time travel into the universe without making it a way to fix everything. Mm-hmm. Because when you go back in time, you can create fractals or you can create a time loop. You can mess up time. You can destroy the time-space continuum very easily, it looks like.
Please don't.
So the problem with that is that you'd have to reverse time decades. The Eye of Agamotto seems best used if you're reversing time by like a few minutes.
Well, then how would you use it, Doug?
Gosh, I don't know, because you think about maybe reversing some deaths.
Right.
But almost every character death we've gotten has done something to the MCU that's been awesome. So I wouldn't want to erase any of that.
His name is Phil.
His name, exactly, was Agent. So I don't have an answer to that question.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm thinking, and if I come up with one, I'll let you know next week. But I want to see what the audience has to say. Because they're more creative than I am.
Apparently.
Right, so what moment in the MCU would you reverse? How would you use the time stone, go back in time? You know what? I'd bring back Quicksilver.
Okay, alright, okay.
And that's right after, because I don't think his death has accomplished anything. But I think seeing his relationship with Wanda and with Hawkeye and the other Avengers develop would have been really cool. So that's my answer.
Okay, I think that's a good answer, actually. Yeah. I want wish fulfillment. You want to save someone's life. Do you want something stupid? Maybe. Do you want something awesome that we didn't think of? Put it down in the comments. We'll read our favorites at the top of the next episode.
Yes. So that's going to do it for us, guys.
I hope so.
Thank you so much for watching this video. And if you liked it, like this video and subscribe to us on YouTube. As I already said, follow us on social media. Check out our website. Do all that fun stuff.
Share this video.
You know how to do it. You love it. We love you. Share our video. Win a t-shirt. Buy a t-shirt. All that good stuff. I'm Doug Herring.
I'm Nick Fox.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye. So welcome to the post-credit scene, everybody, where we discuss the post-credit scenes.
Right. We didn't do that in our main video, so we thought a good time to talk about the post-credit scene is our post-credit scene.
By the way, what are you still doing watching this? We already talked about things and got off topic. What more do you want from us?
Right. But this is a good point to add. Just like we have cold opens every episode, we also have post-credit scenes every episode. Our YouTube analytics says not many of you get to those.
Thanks, Mom.
That's okay. But we figure if we have a little bit longer one this time, more people might watch.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about those two post-credit scenes.
Right, so let's talk about them in order. First one, oh my god.
Yeah, Thor showed up.
Yeah, Thor shows up, and in a very sort of Ant-Man-y, sort of mid-credits, post-credit scene, we get a glimpse into what's coming.
Right, and I believe Scott Derrickson, in an AMA on Reddit, said something to the effect of, that was a scene from Ragnarok. That takes place during Ragnarok. It definitely seems to, because what Thor is wearing matches with some set photos of him and Loki on Earth. So, seems like Doctor Strange is going to have at least a brief scene or two in Ragnarok.
It makes me wonder if he's visiting other New York heroes.
I don't know that there's much of a reason for him to visit, like Spider-Man.
Please?
But I think there is a reason for him to kind of be aware of what's going on off of Earth. Mm-hmm. And so I think...
He has Heimdall.
I think him being aware of Heimdall... Are we talking about Thor or Doctor Strange being aware of what's going on off Earth?
Both?
Well, but I think either of them being vaguely aware of the Guardians makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. My big thing is that this sets up nicely. It's like the first chance we've gotten to see the setup of Ragnarok. And we talked about this a little bit before we started filming. And that is, up until now, we've seen very disjointed sections. And this is the first time that we can really start to piece a story together. It looks like Thor is going to come to Earth looking for Odin.
Right, because as we saw at the end of The Dark World, Loki has done something with or to Odin and taken his place on the throne of Asgard.
I'm thinking he wiped his memory and left him as like a hobo on Earth.
That would be my guess as well, yeah.
And now Thor is angry, and he has brought Loki down, as we know now, in order to help find Odin, because some threat has come.
It seems to me that Hela has come, threatening to bring about Ragnarok.
Yes.
They know they can't defeat her on her own. All they need their daddy. So Thor teams up with Loki. They say, we gotta go get Dad back. They go back.
Do you put him in the muzzle from Avengers?
You threaten to.
If thou don't shuttest thy mouth.
So you get Thor and Loki coming back to Earth to find Odin. I think this happens fairly early on, and I think, just like in Civil War when Tony recruited Spider-Man, I think this is how you get Thor to pick up Hulk.
Yeah, exactly. He needs extra help.
I think they're on Earth, they've got Odin, they're ready to head back, and Thor says, you know what, before we go back, let me grab somebody else who I think might be able to help us out with this problem. Cut to...
I just had an idea.
Yes.
Maybe Strange is his Cerebro.
It helps him find...
Yes.
See, why wouldn't he just ask Heimdall? Hey, Heimdall, where's Banner?
Heimdall's got other things to look at. Yeah. Heimdall's like, I'm guarding things. I cannot be bothered to find green guy.
Yeah, maybe. But however he finds him...
Maybe he doesn't realize until he's on Earth.
Maybe.
And Heimdall has a hard time communicating at that distance.
Sure, that's true. Heimdall, he does not have telepathy.
Yet.
Right. So, so anyway, he picks up Hulk, then goes back to Asgard or some other planet. We get
gladiator fight.
Right, we get a little bit of a Planet Hulk storyline where they're gladiators for a while. We get some action. We get some road trip type stuff. Back to Asgard, final battle, Ragnarok, apocalypse diverted. End of movie?
And Thanos post-credit, I'm guessing.
And Thanos post-credits, because I also imagine we're going to get the introduction of the Soul Stone in Ragnarok, which I'm convinced, and I'd love to be proven wrong, but I'm convinced Heimdall is powered by the Soul Stone.
If he's not powered by it, his eyes are the stone themselves, because if you see in Thor 2, his eyes are the right color to make it work. If you have a better theory, by all means, comment.
Yeah, what do you think the Soul Stone is?
And people in the comments who haven't made it to the post-credit scene will be like, what are they talking about?
So let's talk about the other post-credit scene then. This one was more Doctor Strange sequel setup, where we kind of talked about it in our main discussion. Because this is where we really see Mordo's turn as a villain.
Right, and this is where it was too quick. We don't really get the justification of why he turned, but I really like the taste we got of evil Mordo.
Yeah, I think when you set him up as a good guy at first, who has a history with Strange, Marvel, I think they know they have a villain problem. And I think what they're doing to fix this is they're setting up their villains and they're keeping them around for a few movies.
Yeah.
And I think Mordo could wind up being one of the best villains since Loki. And actually very similar to Loki, where there's no hatred for Strange as a person. They just are doing very different things.
Yeah. Right. I think they both have their goals in mind, their objectives in mind, and they're going to get there. And it's interesting to see him go from such a sort of stoic character to being such a direct villain. I mean, we haven't seen many villains who are so willing to do something very directly evil. A lot of times other people are doing their bidding or they're there with a whole army. And I really like that he actually takes the power from one person. Yeah. Doing like a very evil thing.
And he doesn't kill him.
No.
He just takes his magic away. And I think that is a very cool idea of maybe the reason Strange becomes a Sorcerer Supreme is because he's the last sorcerer. Mordo comes to Kamar-Taj, he takes away everybody's magic.
I would love to see how many other sorcerers there are out there. How many other people have magic.
I mean, just looking at Kamar-Taj, it's not like it's sparsely populated.
No.
There seem to be
like Hogwarts.
a dozen or so masters and another 2 or 3 dozen students.
It seemed like they had no problem replacing people after they died.
Right. And so to see Mordo come and just take away magic from anybody who could use it and not kill them because he's not evil. In fact, you could argue that he is accomplishing the Kamar-Taj's mission in a more pure way than the Ancient One was able to. Because he's not breaking the rules.
But
he's not messing with time. He's not stealing power from the Dark Dimension. He's saying, I'm going to guard this world from the bad influences that break the rules. And those bad influences that break the rules happen to be the very sorcerers that are supposed to protect it. So he hates Kamar-Taj, but he's not evil,
Kamar-Taj doesn't even sound like a word anymore.
No, it doesn't.
But look, he's a zealot just like we had in the movie, just a different variety of zealot. So it'll be interesting to see how they play that off. I almost wish we had a few more seconds in that, though. Just a little bit more.
I agree, yeah.
But interesting to see what comes of that. Thanks for hanging around for the post-credit scene where we talk about post-credit scenes.
That's our post-credit scene about post-credit scenes.
Super meta.
Yep. Okay, bye guys.
Bye.